everyone, welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of March in my reading journal. Now, prefacing this video, it feels like that I've been doing this a lot lately, but I haven't done a few videos that are normally in the schedule for the last few weeks. I've been having a bit of a rough start to the month, and of course YouTube is very much so a hobby of mine. I don't get paid to do any of these videos. I don't monetize anything. I don't have any plans to. So that being said, whilst I enjoy sharing these videos, I did have to take a step back. So I am sharing my wrap up for March quite late. It is now the 13th of April when I share this, and I didn't do a wrap up for the reading side of things. There's no reading update for the end of March, and I've decided that I'm not gonna do one just simply because it felt a bit redundant to do it this far into a new month. And I also had a TBR that I actually filmed it and everything, but I just never got around to editing it, didn't have enough time, so I haven't done the TBR game for April. But I am sharing the the prompts that I ended up with for the TBR vending machine on shorts and reels. So that will be something that I can do to sort of share that still over the month of April. Now we can get into the actual book and what we're doing. So welcome back to another video where I am filling in the stats for the month that has just passed, and also just filling in all the little spots in my journal. If you're new here, this is something that I try to share every month, much more closer to the end of the month than now, but I really enjoy stats. It's one of my favourite parts of having a reading journal, to look back on the months where things are different from each other and thinking of why that happened. I also just really enjoy the information that I gain from this, and I have a good time doing it. So we are on the stats page already. I've gone and stuck in every cover of the books that I read over March. I had 15 books in total, and I had a pretty decent month. A lot of the books were either 4.5 stars or 5 stars. Actually, no, there were only 2 5 stars last month, but a lot of them were really quite high. I did have one 2.5 star read, and that was the only non-fiction read of the year so far. I just didn't gel with the book at all, so I ended up giving that a 2.5 stars. And I had that as a book club read as well, and my rating was pretty much on par with everyone else in the book club, so it wasn't just because I had ventured away from my fiction reading ways. Aside from that, nothing else below a 3. I had a couple of books where I was just like, it was okay, but on the majority were really decent reads. And my favourite read for April actually ended up being a book that I almost DNF'd. So goes to show, putting in a little bit more effort with some books might actually work out to giving you an amazing time. That being said, I am a huge believer of, if you're not enjoying a book, don't waste your time trying to endure it. It just happened that this case, it worked out really well. And that book was Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. And the main reason I wanted a DNF was because I am a bit of a wimp, and I don't really like horror or like really dark, gory settings. And some of the beginning content of the book was quite overwhelming for me, and also I really didn't gel with the main female character at that point. But when I say this has become one of my absolute favourite books that I've read for a very long time, I am not kidding you. I immediately got a copy of it to put on my shelf because I read it as an ebook, sorry. And I just had a really good time with this book, and I absolutely love the characters. It's like if you love Howl's Moving Castle, but make it dark and for adults, you'll totally love Starling House. If we finally start looking at the actual stats that I'm putting in and everything now, I've already gone ahead and put down the book covers, and I'm halfway through my first side of the stats page and filling that all in. I did have a couple of errors when I was filling this in. It's still very new to me. I pointed out one just then that I forgot to put the little dashes beside it, but that's not really a big deal for the acquired from section and how I've been doing like the little dashes beside each book above. and I did manage to complete that with everything else on the page. I also made a mistake by using the wrong pen for Audible, but it doesn't bother me too much. I just went over it a little bit. I am finding this way of putting my stats page together, as in each block filling in completely and then moving on to the next one, works well for me. Last year I would always do the bare bones of everything and set it out, and I would normally have it all like marked out entirely, which is kind of what I've done here, but like in a different way. And then I'd do the whole like skeleton of the page and then come in at the end and fill it all in. I'm enjoying doing it this way more because I feel like I'm more productive and get everything done, and I'm focusing on one section at a time rather than how the entire page balances up. However, I did make a few more mistakes than I wanted to when I was setting up this page, such as right there when I did the same header colour. But again, very minimal issue, and I am really enjoying the way that I am presenting my stats in this larger notebook, so I don't know how I would cope with going to a smaller notebook again next year. I have been very vocal and honest about my experience using this B5 notebook and how I do miss the smaller notebooks. But there are some benefits to having a larger space to work with, and this page is definitely showing me that it's one of them. I like that I can fit more of my stats information on this 2-page spread. If I was to do this in a normal journal, it would definitely take me more than 2 pages to do that, and I'm actually finding myself a little bit disinterested in using my reading data journal, and I'm wondering if that's just down to the fact that it's a different size, or I feel like perhaps I could incorporate everything into this journal because there are more pages when I think about it in the terms of I used to use the reading data journal because I didn't have enough space to fit an entire year into this specific journal, and now that I've got more space, I'm using less pages every month. I'm definitely aware that I could probably fit quite a lot more into this journal in the future. Part of me wants to use the back of the journal to do my Q1 stats page, and the other part of me is, no, just continue using the reading data journal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I would really like some feedback around that. If you have watched these videos enough, do you think that I should put it in the back of this book, or should I continue on with what I've set up in the other one? It just feels a little bit disjointed this year, and I didn't have this problem at all last year because I don't think this is an issue, but like I didn't have this opportunity, I guess is the right one to say, because obviously I was trying to conserve as much space as possible in my blackout journal because I didn't have a lot of pages. And if you are new here, I used a blackout journal last year and I only had like 3 pages left at the very end of the year, so I definitely wouldn't have fit in everything that I store in my reading data journal, if that makes sense. This page is basically now done. I did have a little bit of an issue with this month's theme. I didn't have any more pictures left from the theme, and I didn't have the, what is it? Like there was no decorative paper that I used with this theme for 𝓤𝓼. So I did use the washi tape that I'd previously used, and I had to come up with something to fill in the gap down the bottom. I am obviously very interested in using a whiteout pen today in this setup, and it wasn't going well for me. I had a lot of issue trying to use that pen, but it does do the job when it actually works. But I did have this huge space down the bottom of the page that I needed to figure out, and I ended up putting a quote at the bottom of the page, just freehanded it, didn't think that it would take more space than it actually did, and it's a little bit off center. You'll get to see what I mean in a moment. But I'm really happy that I put a quote in, and I haven't been incorporating quotes really into this entire theme this year. Last year there was always a quote at least in one page of each setup. This time around I haven't used a single quote, and it feels a bit weird, so I decided to put this quote down the bottom of the page just to fill in that gap, and I actually quite like it, even though it is a little off-centered. I just used one of my Anko dual metallic marker pens, the dot markers. I used the thin tip and just wrote out the quote, and yeah, I don't know, it kind of finishes off the page, I think, and I liked that it was there. But we are now done with this portion of the book. Once I've finished letting it dry off, I am going to flip to the front of the book and start filling in some of the challenges and informational pages at the front. So I'd already done most of the work in the front of the book. I did end up having to charge my camera, so off we went to try and finish that bookshelfie off, and I didn't show myself completing the last 3 books that need to be put on. But I am on the Days Red Pixel now, and I have finally got my pens all ready. I do make a mistake on this page, so the black represents when I don't read, and I ended up on the format side putting this 2-piece bracket 2-day spread one higher than I was meant to. So in the setting up for the format, I do end up putting that down on day 16 rather than day 14, because it was supposed to be days 15 and 16. Not a huge big deal to worry about. I know what it means. It does look a little bit disjointed, but you know, I wasn't prepared to go and try and white out the black and try and put a colour over top. I think this just works just as well. Really happy with how this page is coming together, and if you didn't see last month's one of this, I actually hadn't filled in February at all. I did that off camera because I didn't know how I was going to work it. I had an issue with my key palette, and I need to still add on another square to the format side. You can see there's one little lone red square on the right side, and that is representing when I read all types of formats in one day. So you can see that I've halved the boxes diagonally if I'm reading just 2 types of formats or types of reading. So when I read a physical, an ebook and an audiobook all in one day, then it gets a red square. So that's how I managed to figure out how I wanted it to go. Again, very much a simple fix. And I think this is going to work out now. I had no issues filling this in except for the fact that I put that box 1 square higher than I needed to. And I'm happy with how it's all going. The colours really pop together, and I can't really say anything about the trends too much yet because they're not really forming in some places. There's about 3 on the book amount side that are all the same on every single day each month, which I am enjoying seeing. Well, there's actually a bit more than that now that I'm looking at it, but overall, it's just really too early in the year to try and see those trends coming together just yet. But I still really like filling in this page. I admit though that for future pages I have gone ahead and filled them off camera because I am finding filling in the challenges this year a little bit tedious. I did go a little bit ambitious with some of them, and I figured if I fill them in at the time of reading them, then I'll remember what they represent a bit more than when I try and do it at the end of each month. You'll get to see what I mean in a moment. We're almost done filling in the format section. I did use my handy little planner for my planner, where I jot down all my information of each day of what I've read, and that's how I'm able to know what types of reads I had or what types of how many books I've read each day. It's very handy to me, and I don't have to keep flipping back and forth through my journal, so I just flip through this instead. Very happy with how these 2 pixels are going so far. Read the Rainbow, I was able to add 2 more books to the total. So for green, I used Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, and for blue, I added Full of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I'd already done the 24 tropes, and I didn't have anything to add to the next 2 pages because I didn't really add anything to them. Like I mentioned, I've been filling them in during the month, and I actually didn't add anything to the bingo for the month of March, so that was interesting. Finally adding on the monthly destination for March, and adding in the little ticket that I put on each page that represents where we've headed after the fact. And now we're in the reading data journal. So we're here with the reread section now, and I'm going to add my final reread for March, and it was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. If you haven't been aware, I was rereading the entire Folk of the Air series, so I could go into the companion series this month. Don't know if I'm going to be able to achieve that yet, but we'll just see how we go. I'm now on the ARCs page, and I'm adding in the books that I've just recently picked up, or ticking off the ones that I have completed, and then this page is up to date. I've been very bad at keeping up to date with this one, admittedly, because I do have a digital copy of it. I'm wondering if it will be of use to me in 2025, but I do also like having a physical copy of it as well. Much like I do with the series tracker, I actually prefer to do this physical tracker than online or on a digital format. I do have the option of doing that on the books spreadsheet that I have, but I do find that I prefer this method more than the digital one. I haven't set it up really, so perhaps I would like it a bit more if I had a digital format. I'm not sure. I do fully admit that I have a repetition in how I track things, and sometimes I just want to simplify it, and then other months I'm like, no, I want to track it everywhere. So I do know that I am a bit of a tricky person to follow when it comes to all the stats that I like to track. This month, instead of trying to figure out on the list which ones I needed to check off and going through the pages, I just went through per book. It did take me a little bit longer, I admit, to set this all up, but I'm happier this way because I was not wasting so much time trying to search for things in the already done series or that are already listed down. I was able to write down very quickly what was new, and then I could search for the ones that I did already have down as a series on my list. I really think I will continue doing this in the future because it was really helpful for me, and I really enjoying seeing the colours come together. If you don't know, green is the colour for 2024, and I think I only have a couple more series to write down on this list. I did start a lot of different series this month, I admit, and some of them are actually ones that I read years ago, like this one, The Celestial Kingdom. I read both books, I think, in 2022, and so purple represents anything before 2023, and I picked up the novella for 2024, so the new novella that came out recently that is going to connect into book 3 that has, I don't know if it's been like fully announced everywhere. I didn't actually know until I read this and saw it on the list on Goodreads. Perhaps I missed it though, but I haven't really heard many people talking about it. And then I made the mistake of filling in on the old owned TBR tracker, not realizing that I'd then have to go through and redo it again, and thinking to myself, there I was thinking, why am I filling this in twice? But it's all right. I ended up fixing this, and I'm very happy to announce that I'm still up to date with this tracker. Every month I have been very diligent in writing down the new books I get as soon as I get them, so I don't forget. I think maybe there's one that I've forgotten, but overall, very thrilled that this is finally working for me. Who knew that I actually just had to put in some effort and then it would work? But I do enjoy how I have this page, and also the digital library system I have found that works for me. It's called Library Thing, so, or is it Libub? One of them. I think I have both, but I'm using one, not the other. And it's really helpful. You just scan the barcode on the back of the book and it's in your system. I've already made little collections, so if I get a new romance book, I go into that collection and then just scan it in. It's really easy, and I get to track if I've read the book or not, so it's really helpful. We are now finally at the 2024 at a glance visual, and I am still very much so not enjoying this year's glance page because the colours that I have for representing my star rating this year are very dark, and this paper is very cheap, and it seems to soak up the colours very differently than the other journal. Another reason why I've been thinking perhaps I need to be adding these types of pages to the back of my journal so it's all in one place. But I will leave that in your hands if you can give me that feedback whether or not I should do that. Is it a waste of time? I don't know, because I did set these pages up intentionally, but I don't know. I'm not enjoying this page as much as last year because I had really bright colours and that's more my aesthetic. But that is everything now filled in. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm very sorry that I haven't had some videos out and thus this one has become very chatty and disjointed in itself, but I'm hopeful that I will be back on schedule now that things have settled down and my personal life isn't so chaotic. And till we next meet, I hope you have fun reading or journaling. I hope that you're having a really good time with your year so far and are looking forward to seeing the Q1 flip through because I am going to film that tonight after I finish this narration. So look out for that one coming very soon. Till we next meet, bye everyone.